In this video, we're going to talk about random numbers. Random numbers are super important in programming, especially in game programming. Random numbers allow you to add randomness to your animations, your art, and in your games. A lot of times you want random things to happen. So how does that work in JavaScript? Well, in code.org, we have a new math tab in our toolbox, and there you can see the random number command is available with examples if you want to read all about that. And random number is the first example we're going to see today of a function that has a return value. So random number doesn't just do something on the canvas. Its whole job is to do something and then spit something back out. Okay, so the way that works is, just to illustrate this, I'm going to create a variable rand_x, and I'm going to set it equal to that random number between 0 and 400. Oopsie. And then once I've captured that random number in the variable rand_x, then I can use that number inside of the ellipse here, and you see when I run it, every time I rerun it, a new random x is generated. So random number, when we get to line 5, when JavaScript gets there, it sees the var keyword and it creates a space in memory to create a new variable. It's labeled rand_x, and then it sees that we want to set it equal to whatever's on this side. Now what JavaScript does is it evaluates everything to the right side of that equals sign. So it's going to call the random number function, and random number spits back a number. So what happens internally is that JavaScript replaces that chunk of code right there with some random number, like 59 or whatever. Maybe it's 207. Okay, you get the idea. Because of this, you don't actually need to store that x value inside of a variable. You can actually just put a call to random number inside of that x spot for the ellipse. Okay, so it'll evaluate this, and same sort of deal, it'll just take that chunk of code and spit out that random number, whatever it may be, and put it in for the x value. Like that, okay? Whatever that random number ends up being. So with that, you can replace all these values with random numbers if you want to. And remember, there's a trick in code.org in the editor where if you select one of them, now you can hold down the control key or the command key on a Mac, and I can double click the other ones, and I can type over all of them at once. And there we go, I have random numbers in for everything. Now you'll notice it's gotten pretty big, too big for my tastes. So just be aware that you should pay attention to the meaning of your numbers, right? The x and the y value should be numbers between 0 and 400, but the next two parameters are the width and the height, and I only want those to go up to 100 tops. So for those ones, I'm going to choose random numbers between 10 and 100. I don't want to use 0. Who needs an ellipse of width or height 0? And now I get something that's more to my liking. Okay. Something to notice. It's an oval. The width and the height are not the same, right? I have a random number between 10 and 100 here for the width, but I have a different random number for between 10 and 100 for the height, right? Each time you write random number, JavaScript goes and runs that function again and gets a new random number. So you may be thinking, what if I want the width and the height to be the same so that it's a circle of some random size where the width and the height are still the same? Well, that's the subject of the next few bubbles. So go ahead and work on those yourself. Pause the video. When you get up to bubble 6, you can start the video up again. So at this point, you've gotten through the earlier bubbles, and I had talked about what if I want the width and the height of my random sized ellipse to be the same. And hopefully you've learned by now from these earlier bubbles that the secret is to capture your random number in a variable. because then once you've captured that number in a variable, you can use that same random number more than once. So that's what I've done here. I just wanted to show you what happens when you randomize everything. I've randomized the colors, the X and the Y, the width and the height. And note that for colors, RGB values are between 0 and 255 max. Okay. Once you get up to 8, I think you'll have an okay time with these 3. Be patient. They're a little bit challenging. They make you think a little bit. I wanted to show you my solution for letter D. This is what happens when you randomize everything, like the positions of the lines, the stroke weight, and then to get the colors to change, you can't use fill. For lines, you need to use stroke with an RGB inside of it, okay? And then of course RGB takes 3 numbers, and I used random numbers for all 3 of those. So that's what I got for that one. If you randomize everything on the arcs, this is what you get. You got to pay pretty close attention again to the values, X and Y. Those should be between 0 and 400 because that's the size of the canvas. Width and height, you can pick, but I went up to 100 just like I did with the ellipses. And then start and stop, those are angles. So those I put between 0 and 360 because 360 degrees is a full circle. Then finally with free play, go ahead and have fun with it. I'm curious to see what you make. For mine, what I did actually is I just hit enter a bunch of times, and then I used that control click to get a bunch of cursors. And then I just started typing a whole bunch of regular polygons at a time, all with random numbered everything. And this is what I got, which I thought was kind of neat. I had never actually used the regular polygon command, so I was curious to see what I came up with. Happy coding. Random numbers are fun. Hope you enjoy them as much as I do.